Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Unspoken Truths of Digital Leadership, Living the Leadership Values, where our guests will talk about the unspoken truths of leadership, the dark side and the learnings from dealing with conflict with integrity. And today I have a special guest with me, Sarah St. John.
Thanks so much for having me.
Entrepreneur and founder of Frugalpreneur, I believe.
Yes,
So, Sarah, please share about a little bit, how you got into the whole digital space, and before Frugalpreneur, how did it all come about?
Yeah, so I started my entrepreneurial journey back in 2008. I had 6 different jobs that year, not at the same time, but over the course of the year. And then I decided to start a photography business because I decided I wanted to work for myself. And I realized that while I like taking photos of animals and landscape and architecture, I didn't really like taking photos of people, but that's where the money is. I was doing weddings and portraits. So, but the bigger issue beyond that was just the expense of maintaining and upkeeping equipment and software and lighting and all of that. So I decided to switch to a online business. And I tried a bunch of different things because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I tried like drop shipping, affiliate marketing, blogging, all of that. And but it was in the course of doing all that that I discovered all these free or affordable tools and resources and software that you can use to manage a business. And I decided to write a book called Frugalpreneur, talking about the different ways you can run an online business, the different types of online businesses, and then how to manage them on a budget. And then I got the idea to start a podcast to coincide with the book, also called Frugalpreneur. But it was just going to be, maybe 10 episodes or something. I was interviewing like the CEOs of the different companies I mentioned throughout the book. But then the podcast was getting more leverage and traction than the book. So I decided to stick with the podcast. And now I'm at like 70 episodes and just making a lot of connections that way. And then I'm just like so, I guess, obsessed with the podcast industry now that I launched my own podcast production agency because I was doing my own podcast editing and producing and doing a good job of it. And people would be like, oh, complimenting it on how it sounded. And I was like, well, if I enjoy doing this for me, why not get paid to do it for other people? So I started that, and that's Podseam. And then I started a podcast resource directory for people who are looking to start a podcast. It's like a central place they can go to discover different resources and tools to get started. So I'm working on a course about podcasting and just kind of all things podcasting now. But it was an interesting journey getting there.
Tell us more about the journey that you went through, going through the different online businesses like affiliate marketing, drop shipping, because I think a lot of digital people, I would say, or digital marketing people, especially myself, I can relate to that because I was jumping from one shiny object to another. Like I was testing, does drop shipping, is that something I want to do? Affiliate marketing or online trading and all sorts, right? So tell us more about that.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned shiny object syndrome because I had that. And I think that's one problem a lot of entrepreneurs have. And if there's one thing I could go back and change, that would probably be it, is that I would start something, but then something else I would find out about another option to make money online. And so I would be like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me try that. So I was just doing a whole bunch of different things, not really sticking with anything for a very long period of time. And so yeah, that was that was a problem, and I think I finally have overcome that. And because I've been doing the whole podcasting thing now for about a year and a half, and haven't been looking around for other ideas to make money online. But yeah, I did the drop shipping thing. I had a business for baby onesies, and And basically what drop shipping is, if someone isn't familiar, it's like you're the middleman basically between the customer and the wholesaler. You kind of like Amazon, and you don't have to keep an inventory or even ship the stuff out. They purchase on your website and then the wholesaler sends it out and you make the difference between the wholesale price and what you're selling it for. So, but yeah, I think the problem with that was that, first of all, people are so used to getting their stuff like in 2 days because of Amazon Prime. But with drop shipping, it's usually coming from other parts of the world. And so it can take, 2, sometimes up to 6 weeks for people to get their stuff. So that's kind of a problem because then you have to make that clear. But even when you do, people get upset about that. And then plus, if you're making, like for me, I was maybe making $5 or $10 profit per onesie, but I mean, you'd have to sell a lot for to be worth it after a while. So
make up for the time that you do customer services, right?
Right. Well, and I mean, they handle the customer service technically, but it's still going to come through you first because they bought it on your website. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it can be a mess.
And prior to starting a business, was it something that you were always passionate about, starting a business, or is it just came into your life?
So I think, I mean, I don't know if people must be born with some kind of entrepreneurial gene or something. I feel like I was, because as a kid, I was like, I would take free stuff that I got for free, like candy and pencils and whatnot, and sell them to my friends. So I think I've always had that entrepreneurial bug, but it wasn't really until I was out of college, I guess, that I really started pursuing that. But yeah, like when I started having regular jobs and stuff and realizing that that's not really what I wanted to do. I want to do my own thing. So
how did you get about to find your own thing? That's an interesting one.
How did I go about finding that? Or realizing? I think it was that year, 2008, when I had so many different jobs and I was just, and I was used to holding down a job for long periods of time, like at least a year, if not beyond that. And so it was just like things weren't working out. And I was like, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, working for other people. I could be more creative and probably make more money by doing my own thing. And so, yeah, I think it was that year. It was just kind of, I think when I had a job where it was stable and I had it for, many months and it was fine. I liked it well enough, I wasn't really thinking in terms of entrepreneurship. But then when all those jobs kind of came and went, some of them lasting 3 months, some of them 2 weeks, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work out.
No, that's always interesting because there's so many people that, some people say they start business because they want to just get financially free, and some people because of chasing a passion. Like, for instance, you started your photography and then you switched over to online. How long did it take you from photography to finding podcasting? Or did you have a few years of trial and error, trying different things, and then finding podcasting?
So I started the photography business in 2008, and I had it until 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was 2015 that I started doing all the different online businesses, doing this, that, and the other. But I actually, in 2015, I also started an online travel agency, and that actually did pretty well. And I thought that was going to be what I was going to do forever. But then I started podcasting in 2019 and was falling in love with that and losing interest in the travel agency, especially then when COVID hit and I had to cancel all my bookings. And with the travel agency, you don't make money until the person's completed their travel. So it was a lot of work for no pay at that point. So I decided to close that up and just focus solely on podcasting. So basically, I guess, so photography from 2008 to 2015. Then I did all kinds of stuff between 2015 and 2019, like drop shipping, affiliate marketing, blogging, all that stuff, plus the online travel agency. And then 2019 through now, I've been doing podcasting and then been doing all things podcasting, I guess full time since 2020, because I closed the travel agency in 2020 as well. So.
And how have you been coping through, your mental health and emotions and all that things that come with it? Because this is the stuff that obviously we don't talk about enough in entrepreneurship, and how scary and challenging it can be, right? And because very much we don't have a big circle enough to talk about this stuff with, and not many people understands what we go through in pursuit of this entrepreneurship journey that we go through, especially in the online space.
Yeah, well, I mean, I found the biggest struggle is like the people that I'm around, family and friends and whatnot, who don't understand entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial mind. And, they see all this work, and you spend all this time working on something, and then it might take months or years or who knows to actually start seeing the fruits of that labor, I guess, like getting paid for it. So I think that's been probably my biggest challenge, is just people, because I've met a lot of entrepreneurs online through podcasting and things like that, through interviews like this. But as far as actually physically knowing other entrepreneurs, I don't really know many, like, personally. So pretty much my whole family, all my friends, all of them, it's not their thing. They don't really understand it. So that's a challenge sometimes. And when I say, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. How do you cope with it? And
I mean, I try to explain it to them, but they still don't really get it. So I kind of just, I don't know. I actually just don't really talk about it much, because I find that when I start talking about it, they don't get it, and they don't even seem that interested. Or they almost seem annoyed sometimes when I start talking about it, like, all right, like, I guess because most people's mindset is like, okay, you go to college, you get a degree, you have a real like day job, and you work yourself up the ladder and all that stuff. But so I think that's kind of what that's what they do. That's what they're used to. And that's kind of what we're taught, I guess, in school, is that's what you're supposed to do. And so, yeah. So a lot of times if I do start talking about it, they either seem uninterested, annoyed, confused. So I try not to talk about it, I guess, for the most part.
Fair enough. No, that's true. That's something that I kind of stopped explaining myself. And it's a very difficult realm to talk about, especially for those that don't understand the entrepreneurial mindset. I'm not sure why is it so different, but I do. Like since doing the work for so many years now, I do understand, previously where I was in the whole 9-to-5 realm is like, you get a job, you pay bills, you start a family, and then you die. Like that was the blueprint. And I was just like, nah, I'm not following this blueprint. I'm creating something a bit more exciting than that. Whatever that looks like. And it's things like connecting with entrepreneurs like yourself on podcasts like this is like, who's on across the other side of the world, and I'm just like, wow, I get to speak so many other people who's making a difference in their lives and doing something they enjoy and passionate about, that we get opportunities like this that we don't think about if we stayed in our own little 9-to-5 bubble.
Yeah. And I'm, when live events start coming back, I'm hoping to actually start meeting some of these people that I've been, meeting online, because I was going to go to Podcast Movement, it was actually supposed to be in Dallas, Texas this year where I live. So I wasn't even going to have travel expenses or anything. But then, of course, COVID, you know. So I'm hoping that 2021 that I'll get to go to these different conferences and events and actually meet some of these people that I've been talking with and whatnot.
That's awesome. And talk about more about Frugalpreneur. Like, what is it? What is it that you do, and how has your leadership been with digital leadership in it?
Yeah, so basically, you know, I started as a book and then into the podcast, and I do some solo episodes where I talk about different things that I've learned or lessons I've learned, or I might give a review of a particular software or something that I use for my business to manage it on a budget. But then I interview people who are in the online space and get their perspective on different things. I've had episodes about podcasting, self-publishing, affiliate marketing, you know, different things like that. And basically, I guess the whole point of the podcast is that, you know, I think a lot of people think that starting any kind of business, even an online one, is expensive. But so I'm just trying to show people the different options for online business, because there's so many, and how to do it on a budget as close to free as possible, actually, at least when they start out. And then, of course, as you make money, you can spend more money. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of how I help. And then, you know, if people need direct help or have direct questions, they can ask me. And because I found that one area I'm pretty good at is that someone might be interested in starting a business, but they have no idea what. Or maybe they're not even interested in starting business. At least they don't know that they are. But me being able to kind of pick out and point out what they'd be good at, like even some friends of mine, I'm like, they were, well, okay. So I have this one friend who was really good at making cakes. I'm like, have you thought about, you know, starting your own cake business? And now she has, and it's very successful. And now I'm just trying to get her to get off Facebook and get a website. She does all her business through Facebook, which it's good to be on social media, but you need to have a website, you know. And so trying to tell her the importance of that. But and then another friend like has a really interesting story, and I'm like, have you thought about writing a book about that? And she's like, she hasn't, but you know, I planted that seed in her head, I guess. And so just different things like that. Like and it's not like I'm even trying to, it's not like they're asking me for that, at least my friends anyway. But there's something that they might be saying, or there's something that I notice that they're good at that I think that they could turn into a business. So just different things like that, just finding the strengths in people and what they could do.
Interesting. And how's that helped you with leadership?
Well, I guess in a way it's like leading people in a way to where opening up their eyes to options. Because I think like my friend who has the cake business, like I don't think it was something she really thought about, you know, starting a business around that. And actually, and I haven't told her this yet, but I got this idea just the other day of, you know, because she has 2 kids, still has a full-time job. She has the cake business. She hardly has any free time to do anything because it takes so long to make a cake. I started thinking, because they're really elaborate cakes, not like a sheet cake. I started thinking, I wonder, she could like start a little online teaching business, like teaching other people how to make cakes and how to start a cake business or something. I haven't talked to her about it, but it's just like stuff like that. I get these ideas, and I guess in a way that's kind of like leadership, because you're leading people to these different ways of thinking and and whatnot.
Yeah, well, you're opening up them to ideas and possibilities that they never thought of.
Right, exactly.
And
Yeah.
you're bringing out the best in them without them knowing. Like, and I understand how difficult it can be, like, to force change on people, because people don't like change. But if you subtly open them to, especially you and your friend, when you're saying, "Have you thought about this? How about we do this and try this out and see where it goes?" And without them even knowing, they've started a full online cake business or something.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of bringing that up to her, because I mean, she started the physical cake business because of my suggestion, so why not start the online cake business? And then she could maybe get to the point where she doesn't even need to actually physically make cakes for weddings and things. She could maybe even make more money just teaching other people how to do it.
Or even hire a team to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And have you grown your own online team with the podcasting?
Actually, currently, I'm still doing everything on my own, but I have thought about, maybe next year getting like a VA or something like that, some kind of assistant to take care of just like the day-to-day mundane, task, email, whatever. But yeah, so right now I'm doing it all myself.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. No, that's I understand completely where that is, because I'm doing the same thing. Everything is me. The content, the marketing, the sales, the content creation is like, it can be very full on. So I understand where you're coming from with getting a VA. That's something that I was looking into as well. Just outsource, even maybe creating audiograms or just the marketing materials, graphics, and show notes.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I think, like, as far as podcasting goes, a lot of people think that they don't have the time to podcast because they think about all the editing and production, like you said, the audiograms and show notes and transcriptions and social media graphics and all of that stuff. And so that's basically what when I just launched this podcast production agency, that's what I help with. So like someone can just record their episode and then send it to me and I take care of the rest. So that's basically, because I enjoy it. So, but yeah, some people, it kind of depends on if they have more time or more of a budget, I guess. So, I've never personally outsourced any of my stuff. Maybe just because I'm frugal like that. But I realize like how much time it can save, because I've noticed for every hour episode that it takes 3 to 4 hours to do everything else, like the editing and producing and just show notes and all that stuff can take, maybe 4 hours. So I can see where not everybody would have the time for that and want to outsource it. So that's why I started that business.
Oh no, it's absolutely, because I read something earlier today about like the podcast journey or something, the podcaster journey, where they kind of have this little flow diagram where they start off excited and then they go on this high, they release a few episodes, it goes flat for a bit, then they have no listeners, so it goes down, and then they kind of like have this flat line where they're just like not going anywhere, and then kind of climb up when the listener views or hearers start populating over a certain period of months or years even. But most would give up before they even get there. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not usually a overnight success. You have to stick with it and be patient. And a lot of people wonder, like, well, how do they even get listeners and subscribers? And but the thing is the podcast directories, they're all search engines. And then even like Google is now transcribing podcasts. So like if you were to search something in Google, it might pop up a podcast. And I think being a guest on other shows too, whether you have a show or not, I think you should guest on other shows, because then you're getting access to their audience and leveraging that. So it's a slow process, but then it kind of starts to snowball a little bit as you reach more people and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely not an overnight thing.
Well, my opinion, anyways, I think let's go back to why did we start a podcast in the first place? I think that's the most important part that most people kind of forget.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for instance, the unspoken truths of digital leadership on this show, it's about interviewing guests like yourselves to talk about how you handle the tension and the stress and being overwhelmed with work, and then balancing between life and business.
Mm-hmm.
And also how you cope with your family members and your friends that don't understand or get what you do and have no clue or understanding of how you feel, how you get through day to day. Those types of challenges that we go through, they won't be able to relate to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what drives me to broadcast this type of guest experience and journey to other people and say, look, this is the type of journey we do go through.
Yeah, and I think, like, with my podcast, my goal or motivation or the reason I started it was to help other people realize that they can start an online business and do it affordably, because I think people just assume that it's expensive, or they don't even think of the different possibilities. Because I feel like even if someone has a full-time day job, that it's important to start at least a side hustle online business, and then build that up, and either that can take over and become your full-time job, or at least always have it as a side hustle or side income in case, like, for example, COVID, whatever happens, and, like, say you lose your job. I mean, you just never know. So it's, I think, good for anybody to start one just as a backup plan, if nothing else, or extra income for, paying down debt or saving or what have you.
And how did that come about with pursuing your business with friends that understand you? Are you working in partnerships with other entrepreneurs or other online digital marketers and people?
Well, not really working with. I mean, I guess I've partnered with a couple. Like, for example, I came out with my third book in October called Podcastpreneur, and so I was able to reach out to a couple of people and them basically give the book out for free to their audience through email, and then got more subscribers and things like that way. And or I'll do like giveaways and things like that and give away books from different entrepreneurs. And so I guess I've kind of collaborated a little bit with different people, but I don't really, I guess, directly work with anyone other than just talking to them on podcasts and the occasional collaboration, things like that.
And how about mastermind groups? Are you in any?
No, not currently, but there's a few that I've been interested in. They're just so expensive generally. But one of these days.
Something you're working towards too.
Right, exactly.
Because generally that's what I found most helpful, is having a support group of entrepreneurs that whether they're in the same space or not, it's just to be in the entrepreneurship kind of circle or support group where they they go through the same thing, same journey. They have their ups and downs. They have their own family and all that. They don't understand them, their own challenges. But it's the support group, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of some, like the Youpreneur Academy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And some like podcast related ones like Podcast Host Academy, Podcast Success Academy, different ones like that. The more affordable, $50 a month type of ones versus, 10 grand a year or whatever. So they're not masterminds, but they are communities where it's primarily like it's a membership, so it's primarily learning through like videos and PDFs and things, but there's always a community aspect as well. And I'm actually starting a community myself, a free community, probably I mean, it's already kind of up, but I haven't really officially launched it yet, probably in a few weeks. But for people who are building their businesses and things like that. So I think that'll be interesting to kind of lead my own little community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I kind of started as well with the community aspect, was to create my own little community of people that I wanted to serve and support, with digital leadership and things like that. Definitely something to look into, especially, and there also you could help them accountability as well.
Yeah,
just to get things done, making sure everyone's ticking and not dropping off.
Right. Oh yeah, Podcaster's Paradise. That's another one. John Lee Dumas. I'm sure you're probably familiar with him. Entrepreneurs on Fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And then in your downtime, how do you cope with the stress and the tension that comes along with the work and balancing life?
Yeah. So I find that I feel like I'm always working on business stuff. I mean, like if I have something planned out, like an event or something with family or friends, then, I don't like, business doesn't get in the way of that. But if I have nothing planned, I'm usually working on business stuff. I mean, sometimes I'll read, but it's usually business related books. So yeah, so I feel like I'm always doing something entrepreneurial related, whether it's reading or I listen to different podcasts or watch YouTube channels, different things. I feel like if I'm not working on my own business, I'm learning about business.
So you're working on yourself?
Yeah. Myself or my business. Yeah. Pretty much all the time.
I can absolutely relate to that. If I'm not doing anything, then it's pretty much most time business. Or on myself or education.
Yeah, and that confuses people too, because they're like, they might be into watching TV shows, like they'll binge watch a show on Netflix, or they'll play video games, or they'll actually go out to sporting events or play sports or whatever. And like that's their idea of fun for them. But so they're like, why do you spend all this time doing your business stuff when you could be doing this, that, and the other? I'm like, well, but that's kind of the same thing for me. It's like my idea of fun, I guess, is business stuff.
Is there anything else that you do outside of business stuff that's fun?
Let's see. Well, I like to travel.
That's a good one.
Yeah, when we could travel. Yeah, I've been to like London, Paris, Rome, Mexico, Canada, all over the US, the Caribbean. Yeah, so I like to travel at least once or twice a year. I actually had a trip planned to Hawaii in April, and it was completely paid for with my airline miles. I had accrued so many. But of course that got canceled. So I'm just ready to start traveling again. I think that's the main thing is outside of any kind of business related stuff. That's the main thing is traveling.
And what got you interested into traveling? Because you started your own travel business as well, right?
Yes.
So how did that come about?
Yeah, so I started the travel agency because I liked traveling so much and I liked planning travel and itineraries and doing it for other people. So I thought, why not? It's always like if I like doing something for myself, why not get paid to do it for other people?
Absolutely true. I agree.
But as far as what got me interested in traveling, because I didn't really, beyond just going to see family, I have family in Iowa, but beyond seeing them every year, I didn't really travel much until I was out of high school. And then especially once I was on my own. I think my first trip was to Cozumel on a cruise. And I don't know. And I just caught the travel bug and was traveling once or twice a year after that all over the place. So it becomes, I guess, kind of like business and podcasting. It becomes an addiction or obsession like those things have. I'm like just wanting to go to all these places. Like I want to go to Scotland and Ireland and Australia.
What's next on your list to go?
Well, I might do that Hawaii trip, although I have been to Hawaii like a decade ago, to Oahu, but I'd like to go to Maui and the Big Island. But I also really want to go to Aruba for some reason. Like, I want to go to Flamingo Island. It's where like the flamingos are walking along the beach and you can feed them. And there's an iguana island. And I'd also like to swim with pigs in the Bahamas. Just very specific, weird things.
Have you traveled to Asia yet?
No, I haven't. I would like to do that. I'd like to go to Japan, I think specifically. I'd like to go there.
Well, anything specifically about Japan that attracts you?
I guess the food probably. Well, really, actually, all of Asia, all the food. I'm really into like, I like sushi, I like boba, I like mochi, Chinese food, Thai food. I don't know, just all of it. I just want to go there and eat all the food.
Japan's absolutely beautiful. I was there about 2 years ago with my fiance.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Absolutely beautiful. The culture, the people, just so kind and so clean, and it was just like another different world out there.
Yeah. Wow.
So I highly recommend that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to add that higher up on my list then.
And anything else on business for those that are looking to start online business? What kind of advice and would you give them, for starting up? Because nowadays, especially in this kind of situation, with lockdowns and the limited access to going out, the more people are going to be shifting online.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many different online business models. So I would say establishing first what business model you want to try first. And my book, Frugalpreneur, it actually like covers the different types and the pros and cons of them. And but then once you establish that and figure out what you want to do, I think definitely having a website is important. A lot of people think they can run their business on social media, and you should be on social media, but the thing is with algorithm changes, I mean, people aren't even seeing your stuff unless you pay to boost it. And then, who even knows if Facebook and all these others will be around in a decade. And plus you're not getting access to their email addresses. And so it's important to also set up an email, use an email marketing platform, which I use SendFox. I think for any content creator, it's a pretty good one for any kind of like blogger, podcaster, or YouTuber, because you can put in your YouTube link or your podcast or blog RSS feed, and it'll automatically generate newsletters every single week with your latest show or post, and automatically send that out to your list. So it saves a lot of time, and it's free actually up to like the first 3,000 subscribers. So I recommend that. And then, with a website, you need a domain, which you can get for $1 at oneand1.com. That's where I get my domains. And then the website, if you do it with WordPress, that's free except for the hosting, which you could get for as little as, $3 a month, depending on what host you use. And then you could even create like a free logo in Canva or pay someone $5 on Fiverr. And yeah, so I would say once you figure out what you want to do, establish your online presence with a website, and then also with email marketing platform, and get your social media set up as well. And so all of that stuff you could get started for like $5, $10. And then, of course, depending on what you're doing, then you'll need specific, like if you're starting a podcast, well, you'll need a podcast host and things like that. So you'll need specific things depending on what route you go. But I think everyone should start at least with a website and an email list.
And generally, that's under $20.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, if you were to create your own logo and you did
It's
a
just
dollar
time.
domain, yeah,
It's
and
time, isn't it, for themselves and the knowledge on know how to.
yeah, well, Canva makes it pretty easy, but yeah, you could hire someone for $5 on Fiverr. That's what I did for my like my book covers and things like that. So yeah, you can get started really affordably online, especially when you don't have if you don't have to keep an inventory or you don't have like a physical office location and you don't have that overhead and all of that. So
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for those that want to look out for connect with you a bit more, where can they find you?
So actually all 3 of my books I give away for free, the PDF version. If they go to thesarahstjohn.com/free, and that's Sarah with an H and then St. John is STJOHN. And then, I'm all over social media at the Sarah St. John. And then if they're looking for podcast specific related things, the podcast production agency is podseam.com, and then the directory is podcastresourcedirectory.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put that in the links as well in the podcast.
Awesome.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Sarah, for your time and appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it too.
Thank you.
Thank you.